Hey everybody, this is Jacklyn, and this is Welcome to Monday's Rumble Renegade. We have a special guest that's joining us via the phone. Could you introduce yourself to everybody?
My name is Ritch Shydner. I'm a stand-up comedian since 1977, with several years off for bad behavior, good behavior, whichever way you want to put it. And I'm here today to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, Jacklyn.
Oh, wonderful. Well, normally we start every show off with 3 random questions, and you get the option to opt out of one. And since you couldn't draw the question, I drew them for you, and I'm going to read them to you, okay?
All right.
And if there's anyone that you do not want to answer, go ahead and pass, okay?
All right.
So, first question, what is the most rebellious thing you have ever done?
The most rebellious thing I've ever done?
Correct.
Yeah, it was probably protests against the Vietnam War in 1970 spring in Washington, D.C. Maybe, probably, I would say, no, you know what I'd say? I'd say it was quit law school and go into stand-up comedy.
That's the most rebellious thing.
Yeah. I had a career in front of me and a probably decent paycheck. I probably would have died in a drunk driving accident somewhere down the Jersey Shore. But I left that like a career with money, and I had no idea how I was going to make money in stand-up comedy in 1979.
I'm not even going to tell you that was the year I was born.
That was a what?
That was the year I was born.
1979?
That is correct.
Well, you're a young thing, you are.
I am. I'm a bit wet behind the ears.
A young thing. 1979. Oh, my God.
So, I'm going to move on to the next question.
Yeah.
What's the most sinful thing you've ever, or what is the most sinful you have ever been?
The most sinful I've ever been?
Yeah, I'm curious.
Now, I'd have to say, according to who? According to the Bible, the Christian Bible I was raised on, according to Satan's principles, sinful according to who?
Simple according to you.
Simple according to me?
Mm.
Oh, probably. Definitely, it was the end of a 3-day bender with cocaine and alcohol and a couple of women who were should not have been there. They should have been home with their husbands and some other guy. Yeah, I'd say that was probably the most sinful.
Sinful? That sounds like a good time. It was a good time.
It was a good time. It was the end of. Yeah, I would say. There's a bunch of there's kind of, I don't know, man. The sinful thing. At the time, I didn't think it was simple at all. But I had no more thought than an amoeba reacting to heat and light. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know what that was, but it's God. I don't think in terms of sinful. It's just so funny to think that. But yeah.
All right. So the last question is what's the biggest surprise you've ever had happen to you?
The biggest surprise was probably the conception of my son.
Was he not planned?
He was not planned, and I thought for sure he was going to be a girl. I had two girls in front of him, and once once my ex-wife said she was pregnant, I thought for sure it was a girl, 100%, and we all thought it was a girl, and he was a boy.
I'm amplifying you with a bowl. So, how old is your son now?
19.
19?
Yeah.
I have a 19-year-old daughter. Is he single?
He's single, and he's dangerous.
Oh, well, then they fit well together. So,
Good. If we can pair them off and get them off and go out, yeah, exactly.
So I just got done. I had the pleasure fairly recently, to watch the I Am Comic.
Uh-huh.
It's currently on Amazon Prime for anybody that's interested. Can you tell me how that came about? Because it was actually really informative and really interesting, and all comedians should watch it.
Thanks. Jordan Brady had come to me. Marcus Ship and I had a book called I Killed. It was a book about road stories of comics back in 2005.
Okay.
And then Jordan Brady came to me a year or two later and said, I want to do a documentary about stand-up comedy. And I'd like to do, I said, well, I'm not interested in doing just stories, there's random stories all stitched together, but I would like to get into the comedy mind, what it takes to do it with the personality type, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. He said, okay, you will write it or interview the comics and come up with the questions. Of course, he would help too. He would direct it, and a guy named Robert Mickelson would produce it, and that's how it came about. Now, we were shooting and filming an interview on comics. We were at a place called the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater up on Franklin in Hollywood, watching a bunch of young comics, and Jordan said to me, he just looked over and saw this look on my face of I hadn't done comedy in a while, quite a few years, and I hadn't done stand-up, really directly done stand-up. And he just saw this look on my face, and he says, he looks like you'd like to try it again. I said, boy, these guys make me want to do it again. They were just having so much fun, and they were really just great young stand-ups. And so he started having me coming back to do stand-up again.
Wonderful.
That's how that came about.
We've got a lot of people, like I told you before, the show is, we go on live via Facebook, and we've got a lot of people that have just joined us. And I don't know if you're able, if you wanted to, probably from your location, if you wanted to log on, you could. But could you just tell everybody, just tell me and everybody else how you got into comedy, how long you've been doing comedy, just give me a resume.
Okay, well, you know what, I was in law school in Washington, D.C., and I thought I was funny, and a friend of mine thought I was funny, and went down, he took me down to this coffee house, and I did stand. There were comedy clubs everywhere. This is 1977. I didn't even know the comedy clubs existed in New York City. Basically, it was just, we just did it. I just did it, didn't even know to call it stand-up, I don't think. I started doing it around Washington, D.C. I just got the bug. Right. And I started doing it, and then within a year, I was opening up for all these bands in D.C., and I was working for these promoters, and then I found out about the clubs in New York, and then
any bands we know?
Any bands? Yeah, well, my first band I ever opened up for were the Ramones.
Oh, no, that was like my husband's favorite band.
That was the first band, that was my first paying job.
Wow, that's awesome.
I opened up for, there were so many punk bands that came through, the Plasmatics, but for a lot of jazz bands and a lot of groups and a lot of regular straight, like Robert Hunter, who was the lyricist for the Grateful Dead. And I opened up for Rick Danko from the band, and for all these different bands in the area that I opened up for, and bigger groups like Chicago, and then, there were just I was cheap, and it was, for $50, $75, they put me in front of a rock crowd, and I was getting a lot of training doing that. And then I got to New York, and I did New York City, and met all those guys in my generation. It was like Bill Maher, Jerry Seinfeld, and Gilbert Gottfried. All these comics were up there, and Rick Overton, Larry Miller, and on my first flight, Carol Lee. So we worked in New York City, and then at that time, the goal was to get to LA, because really was nothing happening in New York City at the time. David Letterman didn't go on until '82, I don't think. And then so I moved to Los Angeles, and then I started doing the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and I started doing David Letterman show, and I did an HBO special and a Showtime special, and TV pilots for my own sitcom, and did all that kind of thing, and then I ended up writing for television, and then I came back into doing stand-up comedy around 2011. I started doing stand-up again.
So who is the craziest person that you had the opportunity to, who have you met that you would hands down say they were the craziest person?
The craziest?
Mm-hmm. Like, you thought they done lost their mind.
Thought they lost their mind. Well, I never was really sure whether Gilbert Gottfried was just crazy or not. He was so out there in his stand-up and off stage. You couldn't really crack that too often to find out. But there were a lot of people with the aid of chemicals and all, but there were some people who, there was George and Otto. There was Otto and George. I'm sorry, there was a ventriloquist team. They were pretty crazy. I wasn't sure whether the dummy was working the guy or the guy was working a dummy. I wasn't really sure.
Nice. So,
have you ever seen a dummy? I literally attack the ventriloquist. I mean, it was unreal. It was unreal.
that's interesting.
Yeah, there are people, and you're in this business long enough. I mean, just crazy. I mean, Rip Danko, but there was so much alcohol and drugs involved, so I don't really know whether it was just a drug addict, crazed drug addict, or whether it was somebody just bona fide crazy. I couldn't really tell.
Fair enough. So, what's the best stage experience you've ever had? I know, tough, huh?
The best stage experience, man. There's so many great stage experiences when you're pure and you're up there and you feel like you're floating. You're so in the moment where there's nothing you're thinking about other than being in that moment, and your mind's 5 or 6 jokes ahead, and you're just moving like a chess game, playing the crowd. Every joke scoring, they yell something out, you ad lib. The best one I ever had was I was working a club in South Carolina. It was a brand new club in Charleston, South Carolina. This guy starts heckling me, and he's a good heckler. Good.
A good heckler. There's such thing as a good heckler.
No, he's smart. He was smart. He was not antagonistic.
Okay.
And he just, a lot of times I think hecklers are just seeing if you're there in the moment or whether you're on remote control. And he was really, and we played back and forth like a tennis match, and then he'd back off and I'd do a run of material, and it got to a rhythm where I'd finish a run of material and I'd go to the piano and I'd sip water and look out, and he'd come back and we'd start again, and the crowd was going crazy. And at the end of it, it ended up the guy was Sean Penn. It was Sean Penn.
No, are you kidding me? You got heckled by Sean Penn?
Yeah.
That's great.
We hung out until about 5 in the morning, and then he says, "Hey man, because I got to go, man." He said, "Before you go, I got to tell you something." And I thought he was going to say, we got to be in a movie together or something like that.
Right.
And he says, "You got to move to Los Angeles." And I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. I thought this guy knew who I was.
He had no idea who you were.
No, he thought I was just a funny guy he met in South Carolina.
Oh, well, I guess that pop a bubble.
It doesn't matter. It was like probably the most fun I ever had on stage.
That's kind of awesome. So, you've got to be on The Tonight Show. Yeah. What's that like?
Well, it was different with Johnny Carson than it was with Jay Leno, but, when I first got on in 1984, it was like that was what you were supposed to do to get the good housekeeping seal of approval, that you were supposed to do that, the show.
Yeah.
You was like your entree into showbiz, that you were bona fide stand-up comic approved, network approved, whatever. There were only 3 networks. Everybody had to work clean to get on Johnny.
Right.
Or else you could get on TV, right? I mean, that was really it. There was no other way to get on. There wasn't cable TV. In order to, you couldn't make it that way. You couldn't make it through YouTube. You couldn't do any other way. But just that, he was the gatekeeper. So that was I felt like I accomplished something. And, I made him laugh. My dad thought I was a good comic, right?
So who are some of the comedians that you have been inspirational in your life?
That inspired me, or I inspired them?
Either way, tell me both.
Well, I was inspired by George Carlin and Robert Klein and Richard Pryor.
Those are all excellent, yeah.
I never saw Lenny Bruce live, but I loved his records, and Robert Klein, I think I said, but Bob Newhart records I listened to. There were a lot of comics that I listened to or saw live. Steve Martin I saw live. I couldn't do anything close to what he was doing, but I saw him live twice, and I was astounded by him. So there are a lot of comics that inspired me. But when I was my contemporaries, when I got to New York, I would sit in the back of the room. If I wasn't on stage, I was sitting in a room watching these comics like Larry Miller, like Jerry Seinfeld, Rick Overton, Glenn Hirsch. There were so many great comics in New York that I could watch and learn and get better. They all inspire me. Even the young comics now, I saw these guys. I can't remember the guy's name at the Asheville Comedy Festival, but I saw a couple comics. And I went, wow, man! It was just inspirational. How fired up they were about it, how good they were. So it doesn't have to be somebody older than me, but I get inspired by somebody who's really going after it, really is passionate about it.
So what's your greatest accomplishment, you think, thus far?
Greatest accomplishment this far was having my last straight job be 1979. I think my greatest accomplishment was I've not worked a straight job since 1979.
You've not worked a what job?
Straight job.
Oh, a straight job. Well, punch the clock.
I've done anybody's clock. I've only worked showbiz gigs. I've only been writing for television or performing stand-up since 1979. I mean, 40 years of this. That's a pretty good accomplishment.
That is an excellent accomplishment. People can only aspire to be half fat. So what are you currently working on?
I wrote a screenplay about the first stand-up comic, and I wrote a lecture about the history of stand-up comedy.
Okay.
It's not a lecture, it's really more of a show. I shouldn't call it a lecture because it sounds too dry, but it's a show, and I tell stories and the jokes of the stand-up comics and how they influenced stand-up comedy, how it changed, what it said about America at any particular time. So I'm doing this show. That's what I'm doing right now. That's my big passion right now.
Awesome. You're actually you're going back on the road again.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have coming up?
I'm going to go to Zanies in Chicago on Tuesday night, the 1st of October. I'll be in Zanies downtown in Chicago to do this show on the history of stand-up comedy. Then I'll do 2 other clubs in the area, which is Zanies. One is in Rosemont and one is in St. Charles. And I'll do that the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and 5th. And
are you still out in L.A.?
No, I moved to Asheville, North Carolina.
So you're in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So did you get missed by the hurricane just came through?
Yeah, it didn't come through here. I'm like 4.5, 5 hours inland from the coast. We're in the mountains.
They said it didn't float you out to sea.
No, I didn't do anything. Didn't bother us at all.
So, do you have a process? You do a lot of writing. I mean, not only with books, but you've worked with other comics, and you've helped get a lot of things done. Is there like a process that you go through for writing that? What?
You come up with ideas. I like to come up with ideas by exercise. You come up with ideas, write them down, but you still have to work on them. Sit down and work on them, and then take them on stage. I mean, the big transition is an idea on the page to get it to be funny on the stage. That still takes work on stage. You just can't. I don't know too many people. Maybe George Carlin was the greatest ever of pretty much what he wrote down. Apparently, ended up how he said it on stage. He was probably the closest to a pure writer that way. But the rest of us, as far as I know, you do the best you can writing it out, and then you have to take it on stage and sculpt it up there.
So what do you have going on with your life currently outside of getting ready to hit Chicago?
What do I have currently going on in my life?
Yeah. I mean,
nothing.
you mow the lawn.
I mowed the lawn and weed whacked, and going to chop down chop some trees that are on the ground, chop them up. That's about it. I don't have anything really going on in my life that's noteworthy. I'm not a guy that has. I'm not a golfer. I'm not a guy that has like hobbies. I'll go fishing once in a while, or I'll go out in the water somehow, or hike a mountain. But I don't have any kind of steady. I'm not a golfer guy. I don't have any hobbies like that.
That's good. I don't either. Not that that matters. I didn't think you really cared. I don't fish, I don't golf, I don't do any of that. So that's kind of normal. So actually, what is the worst experience you've ever had on stage?
The worst experience is when a guy one night, probably like before I got on stage, this guy did a bunch of racist jokes. It was in a little bar in Kentucky. This was way back, like early '80s. It was a gig between two gigs. Like I was going from like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but say I was going from Cleveland to Chicago or whatever, something, I don't know. But in between, they'd sometimes give you a one or two night, a couple of one-nighters to fill in between, so you go in the way in between one gig or another, you can make some more money. So it was a couple $100 one-nighter in Kentucky or whatever. But this guy, I don't remember who he was or whatever, some guy, I don't know who he was, middle act, and he unleashed with a bunch of racist jokes, and the audience loved them.
They loved them?
They loved them.
Interesting.
I was the headliner who now hated the audience.
Right.
I should have just got in my car and drove away, but I didn't want to leave the few $100 on the table. Obviously, I have to be there. So it was a mistake on my part. I went on stage and tried to entertain people I didn't like, which is really not a good show for anybody.
That's a good point. So how'd that end up turning out?
Comedy through gritted teeth. That's about all I can explain. I tried to punish them with jokes more than make them laugh. I don't know. I was looking for hecklers, and I think I picked on a couple of unsuspecting people. It was a pretty angry performance. It wasn't really. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. I got my money and left. The guy, I do remember the guy wasn't too happy to pay me, and I didn't care. I just got my money and drove off.
Right?
Yeah.
So, there was a part on that show, that I Am Comic about, they were using this, one gentleman did a program to where you could do, it like, basically analyzed your material. Are you...
Well, look, they always say the first casualty of war is the truth, and I will say that's probably the first casualty of a documentary, too. So that was a little bit gimmicked. That was gimmicked, okay? Okay. Because first of all, they cherry-picked what they gave him of my set that night.
Oh, I was more wondering what your thought process was on the program itself.
Yeah, the program is there's a lot of things it doesn't explain. It doesn't. Like, I don't know if Jordan was like, be nice to the guy. You gotta be nice. So it's like, obviously I didn't want to. It was just a weird program that is somehow that you could quantify a comedian by the laughs per minute. And I guess there is some validity. There used to be a thing where agents or comedy bookers would rate comics by their jokes per minute, JPMs, whatever the hell they called it. I don't know, late 80s.
LPM is what I've heard it used.
Laughs per minute, yeah, LPMs. LPMs, it's laughs per minute. Now, I'm sure that has some validity. I would like to know how strong the laughs are, and how versus the laughs always matters to me. There are some hacks out there that can churn it up, no doubt about it. But I found the whole thing to be kind of irritating. I like anything that sort of tries to find an objective way to measure art.
Okay.
I don't know how you do that. Could you have some sort of spectrograph that you could put up on a painting to determine whether this painting was better than that painting? I don't know. I found it kind of irritating in that way. In other words, if you put a couple of people you didn't know, and you said, well, this person got 89 LPMs, and this person got 59 LPMs. The guy with 89 was the hack of the world, and the other person was Brian Regan. So I would prefer the 59 over 89 in that course.
Okay.
I don't know. It was something that Jordan thought would be interesting. Look, he's a director, and he was looking to direct some drama and entertainment into the documentary.
Right. So, I mean, how do you think there's any value in the laughs per minute, or do you just, I mean,
Look. It's a different era. It's a different era. It changed when I first started. Nobody worried about that aspect because it was all fresh and new, and so the audiences weren't trained. They didn't have any expectations about how much they were supposed to laugh.
Okay.
So the laughs per minute weren't that tight. But if you were interesting, or at least thought you were interesting, the audience might find you interesting and go along if there were some gaps there between the laughs. But as long as you got strong laughs and you ended strong or whatever, that it was okay. And then what happened was, to my way of thinking, the specials became these greatest hit packages for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So audience got trained at home to expect the comic to come out there and just bam, 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 bam. So when you come into the live show, that's what they expected, what they saw in the cable TV specials.
Right.
Or the talk show appearances. And you couldn't experiment as a comic. The club owners, if they were worried about your LPMs, how are you going to go off and experiment and find something new or take a chance where you might not have a laugh for a couple of minutes before you hit play, right before you found something? If you're worried about this steady stroke, it means you're prepackaged. You got to be prepackaged to do that. And I think the best comedy is not prepackaged.
I would agree with you. But what do I know? I'm a nobody, right?
Yeah. Well, you're a nobody talking to a nobody, so who cares, right?
Well, you're somebody to me, so that's all that matters.
Oh, aren't you sweet?
Not really. Oh, no, honey, I 100% have horns holding up this halo. But I'm actually looking forward to you coming to Chicago because I will be meeting up with you.
Well, I would hope that. I would hope that. That sounds good.
But I also know that when we talked earlier, you had a previous engagement that I don't want to keep you from.
Thank you.
So I am going to acknowledge that. I'm sorry, you guys, we are a very short show today, but we were working with somebody who has a life, and we're going to say goodbye this time, and we will see you guys next week. Again, thank you for joining us, Ritch. It's been very invaluable.
Thank you.
All right, you have a good night.
All right, Jacklyn. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.